Hello, everybody. Tommy here, World at War Comics, and my next special guest is Michael Moreci, writer extraordinaire, writes comics, screenplays, novels. You know him from Barbaric, Star Wars. He's currently on Dick Tracy with Alex Segura. Well, him, Alex Segura, have teamed up for a brand new title you can only find on Zoop called The Awakened. It is a amazing title, which is a kind of a police noir slash superhero. So it's very unique. I haven't seen anything like this. It looks awesome, and the art looks absolutely fantastic. You're gonna want to check this out. But before we get into that, I want to remind everybody our Kickstarter for issue 3 of Kingsville is live right now. You have about 25 days left. We would love your support. All right, without further ado, I want you to meet Michael Moreci and check out The Awakened over at zoop.gg. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest is Mr. Michael Moreci. He is a creator, a novelist. You probably know him from titles like Star Wars. I got them all written down. Stranger Things, Barbaric, Burning Fields. There's all kinds of stuff. Curse. Man, it's incredible, Michael, to be able to talk to you. I was just telling you before we hit record, I was on with Alex Segura maybe 2 weeks ago, and we were talking Dick Tracy, which you, Dean, and Alex are doing, and phenomenal title. And today we're going to talk about The Awakened, which looks absolutely amazing over on Zoop. But before we get into that, Michael, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a busy week. I was up late as last night, and I'll shamelessly plug. I wrote and I co-directed and wrote a movie that we did a premiere at the theater nearby me last night. It's called Holiday Hold Up, and so we it was a whole thing. The cast and crew came. It was fantastic. It was just a super fun event, getting everyone together, getting to see on the big screen, and it was a good showing. And so I was up late and I had a lot of work to do today, so I'm kind of I'm tired. I'm too old. I'm Murtaugh, man. I'm too old for this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I even more appreciate you making me some time with all the business that you have going on. You're like your hands are in a lot of titles right now too, so I can't imagine writing a screenplay or a movie and then having to do all these titles too on the other side. You're probably pretty busy, so I appreciate it.
I like to stay active for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I would love to, before we jump into The Awakened, I would love just to figure out how you got into storytelling. Did it happen at an early age? And was there anybody in your life that had a huge influence on your love for storytelling?
So it did happen at an early age for sure. As far as I can remember, I always was, in love with stories. I was an active kid, all through high school, even post high school. Like I athletic, played sports, so I had a balance of stuff. But I remember, and I know that like outside of that, when I wasn't like with a team or practice or whatever, my own time from when I was, gosh, 9, 10 years old was spent watching movies and reading and watching television shows. And it just always, clicked with me. And I started making my own. I started making my own like Simpsons comics, when I was probably 9, 10 years old that I actually sold at my school, to other kids. And, um, I created my own comic with my buddy about a dinosaur and a boy and his pet dinosaur, and kind of grew from there. And I maintained that throughout high school. I maintained it through college, and when I started really getting more serious, although that's not fair, that's not true. I think I was pretty serious about it in high school. I was really more focused on film at the time, even though I did read a lot of comics and love comics. Like I said, I was making some of my own, but like I really want to be a filmmaker. And I went through all the, the film school stuff, and I got serious about it towards the end of high school and into college. And in terms of like, yeah, people, I had teachers who I remember I had this teacher, Mr. Kroc, my senior year of high school, and he was the one, when you're in high school, a lot of the stuff you're reading is your standard stuff. You get your Catcher in the Rye and Old Man of the Sea, All Quiet on the Western Front, all that kind of stuff. But he was the one who introduced me to I remember us reading Huxley's Brave New World. And I was like, wow, and it kind of changed the way I saw what fiction is and what fiction could do. Is my really first touch of, with sci-fi, even though I love Star Wars, but like as a novel. And he's one of, I remember him being like, well, go read Vonnegut. And I did, and I started reading a ton of Vonnegut, and that really started to shape, I think that's, I have a lot of influence, but shapes like the Waste of Space series that I did with Vault. Like it's definitely Vonnegut inspired. Um, but yeah, then it just grew from there. But I've always wanted to be a storyteller, and I've been lucky to be able to work in different mediums, because as much as I've loved film, and that was my first love, like it's probably the most challenging. I've written novels, written comics, written film, and making a movie is the hardest. I've been lucky. I have two now. I wrote one called Revealer with Tim Seeley, who I'm sure you know. We wrote it together. And so I've been lucky to have two produced, but like I've also written a lot of screenplays that have not been produced. So that's the hardest. And I love them all for different reasons. I love telling stories. I love what power story, that storytelling has and what it can do. So whenever I'm writing, whatever the medium is, whatever the genre is, I'm happy to be doing whatever it is in front of me.
That's awesome, man. Now, as far as writing a screenplay for like a movie and then writing for a comic book, is there a different mindset and approach that you take between the two?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there's a different like internal rhythm, I guess you can say. Um, writing a screenplay, trying to get that, that 100 pages complete, beginning, middle, end. And one of the big things is, and I learned this so much on both Revealer and Holiday Holdup, but especially Holiday Holdup, I feel like I learned it a lot more was is I don't know if this is a word or not, the audibility
Yeah.
of dialogue. Like you're really thinking the difference between there's a difference. It's not the same like how dialogue reads, like in a bubble, or a caption, or whatever the case may be in a comic, how it reads it may work as dialogue in a comic, and not because it's a but just because like how it's read and how you can, shape that versus how a line is delivered in dialogue with a performer, with an actor. Like sometimes as I learned, in Holiday Hold Up, it changes based on like who is saying it. You learn, performers, what their strengths are, what they can do better, maybe make it a little shorter, to help them, whatever the case may be. But like there is just a difference between like dialogue that's delivered audibly and then dialogue that's written on the page. And what might work for one may not work for the other, and vice versa. So that is like, other than like the rhythm of like a, three arc, like I said, 90, 100-page thing versus the way comics are serialized over time, the biggest thing is like that really adjusting how dialogue works in both, and it's not the same.
Yeah. Now, I had a couple other folks who write screenplays, and most recently I had a gentleman named Brian Russo who lives in Hollywood, and he does a screenplay writer, and he also has a comic book. And he was talking about how he has submitted screenplays, and then he even forgets that he ever submitted it. And he had one 10 years later come back and they're like, "Hey, we'd love to take a look at this." And he forgot that he even turned it in. Have you had that experience too? And I feel like that kind of stress of producing something, letting it go, and then never knowing what happens to it would be, I don't know if I could handle that kind of stress, to be honest. I'm sure you kind of get hard to it after a while, Michael, but
Yeah.
have you experienced a lot of that as well?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So hope I didn't scratch your wound or anything.
No, no, it's funny. I actually turned in a script. This project, and unfortunately, can't say what, but this
Yeah.
project has gone through. This project that originally was going to be a TV series, and it's gone through, I don't know how many showrunners, how many writers who have left for one reason or another, usually because they just get a gig, and they're like, oh, I got hired by one, literally got hired by Law and Order. It's like, well,
Oh,
yeah.
that's fair. That's
You're
fair.
yeah, yeah. But it's gone on for years, for years. I mean, this is years. I always now it's like pre or post COVID. This is pre-COVID, and by a pretty good years before that. So a decade, something like that. And finally, long story short, is that like after the latest writer was like, "Hey, I gotta jump off this thing," which happens, like I'm going to do Law and Order. I was finally like, you know what? I'm in a position now that I wasn't at the beginning when we started this thing. I'll write it. And that was, a few years ago, even still. And I just turned it in today. So this is something that's been kicking around through iterations and writers and people and producers for, I'm gonna say 10 years, probably something like that. And you do forget about it after a while. You're like, what is going on? What's happening with that thing? It's sometimes you'll remember, but and there's others as well that like you have to, especially with screenplays. It's just like the alchemy of getting something done and made is so wild and so unpredictable. Like you just like even when something does get made and you're like, oh, we're doing that. Okay. I guess okay.
So how do you mentally prepare for something like that? And does comic books help offset that kind of stress of knowing things are kind of just thrown out there and you're waiting for things to get done? Because I feel like on the comic side, and correct me if I'm wrong, um, when you get signed on to write a comic book, right? The beginning and then the end of even that first issue, right, comes, I'm sure, a lot faster than a screenplay actually going through its process. So does that help a little bit offset that kind of stress that you go through being a screenwriter and never knowing when something's going to get picked up and executed? Does it help at all, or is it just another added stress?
No, it does help. It does help. I mean, there's two things that like really help with that. Is one, and I'm sure it's funny, Alex Segura and I talk about this a lot because we're very similar. We're similar in a lot of ways, but one of the biggest, I think, similarities we have professionally is that we are kind of just we're workhorses. Like we are always working. We are always and we're pretty, knock on wood, prolific. We've been lucky to be prolific because you can work a lot and not get published and people don't know how prolific you might be, and we've been lucky to be prolific and prolifically published, which is nice. But it's good to be able to like turn the thing in and then just move on to whatever's next, just have that next thing waiting so it pushes something else out of your mind. I'm off of it. I hope for the best, but now my focus is on this. And the second thing is comics does give you more immediacy and more of a guarantee. Like I don't, besides stuff that I've really done myself, and it's been a while since I've worked for Image, no real reason, just circumstantially. Um, there's seldom that like I'm ever gonna do a book on, I guess for lack of a better term, like on spec, like where I'm like maybe this goes, maybe it doesn't. I mean, obviously you have to pitch something, but once the pitch goes, like in a screenplay, like this project, for instance, like I remember this different project, pitching it and going through outline and going through this. There's so many stages like pitching to get the job, then pitching to, do the complete story, then the outline, then et cetera, before you even get to even writing, then you write it and you don't know. And it always feels like you're always in the middle of a bake-off in a way. Whereas comics, like once you pitch and you're in and you're the guy writing or the person writing Dick Tracy or Bond or Stranger Things or whatever, like you are doing this thing. You're writing the 4 issues or 8 or 10 or whatever. So you kind of know what's coming and you know when, and there's a built-in schedule and the artist is going to get rolling. Whereas like you do the script and like it's not like the director is going to direct like a piece of it or they're going to there's nothing really starting as you're doing the complete thing. Like I won't even be done writing Stranger Things, for example, and Totor's already, illustrating it. So you're already seeing it. The production line is the gears are all moving. Where like, in a film, like you're the only gear as the writer for like a while, and you may potentially forever.
Now, knowing what you just said, Michael, have you started with a screenplay and has one of those screenplays become one of the novels that you've written because you felt like after a while, maybe this is a better format for this type of a story? Or is it vice versa? Because I know you've written some novels as well. So I was kind of curious if a screenplay has ended up being one of your novels just because of this process and you felt like you could get your story out there faster. Maybe.
No, weirdly, no.
Oh,
I've never. I- I'll add in kind of an amendment to this. So no, I've never changed anything. Like all my screenplays are just screenplays. I've never turned into a
okay.
comic, uh, TV show, nothing like that. I mean, I would adapt the comic into something like if I yeah, I don't know, for wasted space, if there's an opportunity to adapt it, like I would want, I don't know, that might be tricky to adapt my own thing, but I have, so I wrote this novel called The Throwaway, which nobody really knows the story because it was never, there's a whole saga behind this. But well, like the editor, it was like became this like what's known as an orphan book when the editor quits, and then the book is just like kind of there, and the publisher really doesn't have as much interest in it anymore. But it was this book called The Throwaway, which I really like. It's like a spy thriller, and I really enjoy it. But it was based on what was supposed to be a screenplay. Like I had a treatment from the screenwriters and a producer, and I got hired through my agent to like, we want to make it into a novel first as like a proof of concept, and then we'll ostensibly come back around and we'll adapt it and we'll turn it into a movie. That never happened because they went on to do something else. I don't really know what happened. They just kind of fell off the planet, and then the editor got fired, and then I think the publisher's like, "Why are we doing this book?"
That's gotta be devastating though, to have something kind of maybe you get a little callous after a while when you go through this like a bit, but for someone like me, man, I would be devastated, I think, if that happened.
I was bummed because I really, really liked the book. I mean, there was a point where I was like, it wasn't even being like line edited. I was like, I have to really make sure that the grammar's right. Like nobody was looking after this thing. But I was bummed when it came out because, like, I mean, that happens. That's publishing. That's how all like entertainment goes. I mean, you've seen this stuff, and it's so funny. Like, the stakes are higher when like a what was it, Batgirl? Batgirl
Oh,
got
and
like
Batgirl that never saw the day of light, right?
never
It was
saw
complete.
like yeah. The Looney Tunes movie, the Wile E. Coyote movie, and that's higher stakes, and you can't believe they've spent so much money on it. And I want to see those movies, and it devastates me. But I also like I've kind of been there where like everyone just kind of there's so many reasons why people at the top, I mean, just like lose interest, and then the regime changes, and these people like the idea that are coming out, and these guys who come in don't like it, and editors get fired, whatever, and things just get dumped or locked in a vault or whatever. And it's sadly part of the gig, it's part of the gig. Does it suck? Yes, it hurts. But like it's just part of the job. It's for better or worse, for worse, but
Now, having doing screenplays, comic books, novels, is there one that you prefer, or is there one more satisfying when you're complete and it does make the day of light? Out of those three, do you have a preference?
that's hard to say. I mean, probably not. I mean, because like I can tell you they're all satisfying for different reasons. Novels are satisfying because they're the hardest. Like writing a novel is, Alex last week was like, "Man, you gotta write another novel," and because he's got Alter Ego out and it's doing great. And
Yeah, I saw his stuff blowing up right now all over my social media. So good for Alex. I mean, I'm happy for him. Yeah, that's
me too.
awesome.
I mean, he's a
Yeah.
great guy. It's a great book. He's awesome. He's like, "Yeah, write a book." I'm like, "Oh, dude, books are so hard. Books are so many words." Like, so when it comes out, it's really satisfying. 'Cause you're like, "Wow, man." 100,000 words. That nearly killed me. But comics because I love the collaboration. I love the intimacy of the collaboration. It's you and three, four, five, however many other people, not a huge team. Movies are magic, I mean, like I said, last night I'm watching a thing that, I co-directed and wrote, and seeing on the big screen is really magical. And some of my earliest memories, the fondest parts of my heart are locked into being a kid and sitting in a movie theater and just being, I don't know, whisked away by the wonder of cinema. So, but at the same time, it's like weird because maybe it makes it better because it's so hard. Like getting a movie made. Like, yeah, novels are hard because I don't think I'm that good at it, or I struggle the most with that. But like movies are hard because the universe and the movie industry doesn't want you to make movies despite needing movies to be
Yeah.
made. Um, so there's so many different reasons that I like find satisfaction and just the simple pleasure of being like, wow, this is made, this happened, and I'm glad for that, and I'm grateful for it.
That's awesome. Well, let's jump into The Awaken because this is the latest title with you, Alex, Dean, and it looks pretty awesome, man. It's on Zoop right now. Can we? I'm going to show the campaign. Is that okay? I'm going to pull it up real
Sure.
quick and let's just take
Yeah.
a look at it because this looks like a lot of fun. And maybe you could kind of give us your elevator pitch as to what fans can expect when they back this project over on Zoop.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a superhero mystery noir. And for fans who know Alex's work and my work, specifically Alex is a big noir mystery writer. And what we do on Dick Tracy falls in the same wheelhouse, but just with a superhero spin. Alex and I want to do a superhero book for a while. This is dates back to when, excuse me, dates back to when he was still a editor at Archie. And we've been kicking around ideas and trying to get something off the ground. And really, you know, landed on like, what do we love? Like, what are the genres and things that we love, and what can we do with, there's a glut of superheroes of from indie to Marvel to DC to film to TV to comic everywhere, audiobooks. I mean, they're all over, and that's no beef with that, but the saturation makes it hard to like carve out your own space. And I think that that's what we did here is we put the mystery forward to really be like, how can we make this a true murder mystery set in a superhero universe? And the superheroes are I think that we have enough uniqueness to make it work that, they do fall into archetypes to a certain degree. Paragon is like our Superman, there's things that Grey Wolf is like our Batman, there's these like, there's these connections for sure. And we have fun playing with that. But what makes it work and what makes it, unique is the angle Alex and I took to really heighten, make it a noir mystery and have fun with that and give enough of the superhero stuff that people love, that we love, to make it a complete, just different and left of center enough thing.
That's awesome, man. The artwork looks absolutely incredible. Let's kind of walk through what fans can get when they back this. Obviously, we
Sure.
start with the digital, which is great. And then that first soft cover starts at $25, which is awesome. 128 pages. So this is hefty. You're getting, I think, quite the bang for your buck when you pick this up. So it's a full story, or is there room for more if this does well, Michael?
Yeah, and I agree. I should mention that. Tommy, I appreciate you
Oh no, you're
mentioning
good.
he's
Yeah.
awesome. Like he's so good. He again trying to get that uniqueness to it. Like he reminds me of like what Hayden Sherman, we worked together on Wasted Space. He has that like just killer style that's so unique and so familiar in certain ways. There's that little early Frank Miller-ish. There's those elements that you see and you recognize. You're like, oh yeah, I kind of I remember that, and I see what's going on here. But it's also very much Hayden's thing, very much Dean's thing. But to answer your question, sorry, is
No, you're good. Yeah, I'm glad that you spoke about that because it is awesome.
it is great. Yeah, he's great. And a great guy. But yeah, it's a full story. It's and the beauty of it is, which we can't stress enough, Alex, all of us, is that it's done. Like this isn't like something that needs to go and be drawn and colored and takes months. Like this thing is done, completely done. So you'll get the full story. There is room for more. I mean, we'd love to do, volume two, depending obviously, but like hopefully we get to be able to do that. But as in terms of like beginning, middle, end, you get all of it.
Love it. I love it. So it looks like we have the soft cover for 25. You have a signed one for people like myself who are collectors and love to kind of have your all your stuff signed, which is awesome. And is it signed by you and Alec? Who's on the signatures that you'll receive on the title?
The whole team, all
Oh
of us will be in.
wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome, man. Very
Oh,
cool.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. And then here's one where you'll get a remark on it, which a lot of fans go after. You got a couple bundles, some retailer stuff, which is great. So any retailers watching this and you want to carry this in your shop, man, this is a great way to get a pretty good price and pretty good margin for yourself for titles in your stores. And then can you talk a little bit about some of your add-ons here? There's quite a few to choose from for folks.
Yeah, yeah, both all three of us, Alex, Dean and I threw in, Dean's got some really cool sketches that he's making available, and some original pages that he, not doing, digital is such a cool thing. Like I know digital helps artists a ton, makes their lives easier and faster. And I have no beef with that, but it is also cool sometimes when they're still working pen and paper and then they have the page. It exists and it can be a piece of art. And this is, what Dean's offering with having some of these pages for sale. We've got a bunch of Alex and I contribute some of our books. He's got the links. We got the Dick Tracy. I think I threw in some barbaric. I can't remember. There's
See, I'm sure there's
strange.
one in here.
My Rick and Morty. I did
Yeah,
that. My Toxic Commando, which I think is super fun. I love that series. Collaborating with John Carpenter was a blast. So yeah, it's just stuff that we've worked on individually, and in the case of Dick Tracy, stuff that Alex and I have worked on together.
that's so cool, man. A
Oh,
lot of
thanks.
cool add-ons too. This is awesome, man. I was telling you, I think before we hit record, hopefully I said it while we were recording, but um, the one title that I cannot get enough of right now is definitely Dick Tracy. This old, amazing character that really hasn't been touched in a little while. I know we had a really good movie, not 20 something years ago, but and to see this
Yeah.
character come back to life like this, it still has that old Dick Tracy feel. So I have some of the old Dick Tracy comics that are barely hanging on for dear life. So I don't pull them out too often, but I do have a few of those. But to have kind of a more modern twist on it, but it still is showing a lot of respect to what Dick Tracy has always been. I love everything about it, man. It's fun, and I will tell you that first issue in the cafe is crazy, man. So if you ever read Dick Tracy, you need to get on it, man, because I believe and Mad Cave is just killing it right now on some of these old titles that they've brought back with Flash Gordon, Dick Tracy. Over at Dynamite, we got Space Ghost. I'm just so blown away by all these old characters coming back alive, and the stories around them are amazing. So, congrats on Dick Tracy for sure, Michael. I know you're doing a lot of other stuff too, but this is the one title that is in my box every time I pick it up because I absolutely love it, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. Like we love doing it. I think when we were talking, we had spoken about how like Alex and I have been keeping the lights on, trying to get this thing done and made for a long time. We were doing it with Archie
Yeah.
7, 8 years ago, and it turned out there was a rights confusion about the rights that's made us pull that away. But we always kept it going. We're always like, we're gonna have our time. It's gonna happen. It's just this business, like we said, it's things getting put on the shelf and things getting put in vaults, and then sometimes they come back. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And definitely ran the marathon with this one. And I think that like the patience has paid off now to like us being, more grateful than ever and having that gratitude propel us to, I guess appreciate it more. And, we always appreciate what we do, but appreciate this a little more. And I think that gives it a little more special oomph and a little bit more care for each of us of wanting to just make this thing great, which the opportunity we've been waiting for a long time that we're finally getting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's look at some of this interior work from Dean because the art is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So not only are you getting an awesome story, but you're getting some incredible art behind it. And it looks like you have an opportunity if you want one of these pages, they will be available for you to pick up during this campaign, which I know there's a lot of fans that do collect. And like you said, it's hard to get it anymore because most people have moved to digital, which is awesome too. I mean, it does make it easier, but to have that big page in your hand knowing that someone penciled it, someone inked it. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, like I am a hardcore physical media person. I like the tactile experience of having books. I mean, you know, books, DVDs, art like that. I think, yeah. I mean, I'll read some Kindle books. I'm not Luddite. I'm not opposed to it, but like, I also love the experience of physical art, whatever shape it may take.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Look at this art here. Go through this real quick. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean the layouts are so clean, the storytelling is so crisp, like his expressions are so just nicely rendered. Everything he does is just so very, very on point, and he manages to put it put his own very, very unique touch on it, which is just remarkable.
The one thing I noticed, Michael, with the art is really the background. So, I mean, especially on a 128 page book, right? If I'm an artist, I'm looking for ways to kind of cheat a little bit because there's just so much to do. I feel like Dean takes doesn't take any kind of cheating routes when it comes to his art. I mean, just look at this one panel to the left here and the background and the detail that goes into each of these panels. That is some high-end art right there, man, to be able to have that kind of a patience and put that kind of time into every single panel in a 128 page book. So congrats to Dean. I mean, he killed it, man. It looks awesome, man. It looks
Yeah,
awesome.
no, I am with you. He doesn't skimp,
Yeah.
and it drives me nuts. Like I know you have to
Yeah.
cut corners. You absolutely the grind of a monthly comic is
Yeah.
oh hard for artists. Totally get it. But when I see a book that's like all blank backgrounds, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah. Well, you
Some-
don't get that on this title for sure. And at
no,
least the
no,
panels we're seeing here, the detail. I mean, look at the background with the buildings back here. I mean,
feels
yeah,
real, you know?
it does. Yeah. So congrats to Dean, and I hope he knows from a fan perspective. So many people appreciate all the hard work that went into it, and then a
Yeah,
little about each of you, which is awesome too. That's cool. So
yeah,
yeah, so let's go back to the top just so people can understand how much time we have left. Right, we have 22 days left. You're almost
yeah.
to 50 percent, so plenty of time. It's the holidays, so as you know, I think after December 25th, people will be like, okay, let's get back to crowdfunding. I don't know if it's true, but I heard December is a tough month for a lot of people when it comes to crowdfunding. But there's so much time. We got till the first couple of weeks of January to get this done, so we'll push this out as much as possible. Michael, anybody watching this, jump on this now. $25 for a 128 page full story is a steal, and the art looks incredible by Dean, and the story sounds pretty amazing. And I will tell you, when it comes to crime noir, between you and Alex, I mean, when I think of you two as a writers, that's what I think of. And I feel like this is right down your alley. And anybody that loves this genre is going to have a blast with this title, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a cool, fun mystery noir in the superhero world.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's I think it's a good read with great art. I obviously endorse it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would expect nothing else, Michael. I would expect nothing else, my friend. Well, I mean, it's beautiful, Michael. And I hope people are able to get their hands on this. And for 45 bucks, they could get the entire team to sign it, which I think is pretty amazing too. You could add that to your CGC slabs or whatever you want to do with your signatures, but I think that would be a lot of fun. So 22
Definitely.
days left. People need to jump on that. Anything else, Michael, that we're not covering around the Awaken that you want people to know, or did we cover everything okay?
No, I think that was great. I think we covered what it is, how you get it, all the essentials are there. Yeah, I just hope people like, we want to make this. I like the idea of providing a complete thing. It's not speculative. It's not a piece of a thing. It's the whole thing. It's done. Like you put your money in. You wait a little bit. It's a little bit of a wait, and then going to your comic shop, which you should always do.
Yeah.
But like it's a complete thing that you will get, and you'll get the whole story in one go. And that's one of the things that like I haven't done many crowdfunding things, but that's one of the things that really appeals to me. Like I want to make sure we're not only delivering period, but delivering something that like, hey, you invested, you should get the entire thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here you get it all, my friend. Anything else that you want to plug that you're working on outside of the Awaken that maybe you want fans to realize that they could get their hands on, that you're allowed to obviously talk about?
I will mention about three things.
Okay,
I'll go
yeah,
now.
please.
we were talking before, there's the my Star Wars Bad Batch series, which is was originally, so everyone knows, it was originally January, so you might see that as what's it called in previews as listed as January. We had a little snafu, let's call it. So it's now February. Um, but the Bad Batch, it is their first comic series. They're actually their debut in comics. I actually wrote their debut in comics with issue number 10 of Hyperspace Stories. So it's technically not their debut, but it is their first dedicated Bad Batch series. Clone Wars is like my favorite era of Star Wars. I love the Clone Wars. I love the prequels. I've been very lucky and grateful to be writing so much Star Wars. But if people know my work, you'll probably recognize a recurring theme of I'm always writing that Clone Wars era. It's not an accident. I'm always pitching. They're like, "What do you want to do?" And it's like, what about some Clone Wars stuff? They're probably like, "Oh boy, I can't believe it. I'm so surprised." But
I love
especially
it.
the Bad Batch, like we meet them. By the time we meet them in at the end of the Clone Wars animated series,
Yeah.
like we meet them at the tail end of the war. So like they have all of these adventures that we don't see even in the series. I'm sure people know this takes place between episodes 3 and 4.
Mhm.
So all those adventures they had during the actual Clone Wars proper, like we don't know what they are. We never see them. We know they did something. They're this elite, squad that are doing the missions that no one else takes kind of thing. And their clone is awesome. So
I love it.
tapping into that a little bit. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun ride. It's 5 issues. I will tease some special. You'll see some special guests.
Nice.
Uh, and that'll be. I think fans are gonna dig who's showing up and what roles they're playing. It's pretty cool. It's a little unexpected things that happen.
Nice.
Um, so that Barbaric
Yeah.
is coming back with. We've got a new. Not sure exactly when. We're working on it slowly, but we've got a new one shot, maybe two one shots. We have a new volume that's going to be starting. The last volume, Born in Blood, just came out in trade about a month or so ago. So that's number two, and number three. I mentioned to you earlier, my own my own podcast, a small
Yeah,
podcast.
no, yeah.
My buddy Kier Graff and I do it. He's another writer. We absolutely love doing it. It's called the Filmographers Podcast, and it's just we're both huge cinephile film nerds, and we just study a director's career one movie at a time, one movie per episode. And we're in I wouldn't say in the middle of Steven Soderbergh. We're actually almost done with our first season, which has been on Steven Soderbergh. Our last episode was covering not The Laundry. Let Them All Talk. Let Them All Talk from 2020. So we're closing in on the end of Soderbergh's, well, not the end of Soderbergh's career because he has two movies coming out next year. So
Oh,
this,
wow.
yeah, this podcast may never end. So,
I love
wait,
it, man. I love it. Well, I'll
so
make
yeah,
sure to put the
that's
link down there to make it easy for people to subscribe as well. Yeah.
yeah, we have a YouTube. We're on YouTube as well. We have sometimes it's just audio, sometimes it's video. But yeah, we have a ton doing it. We just want to do it so if people are as film nerds as Kier and I are, and just geek out on like the history of how these movies were made and what was happening at the time that they were released and things like that. I think they'll get a kick out of like Let Them All Talk. This episode is like his Soderbergh string of streaming movies, and like why he was doing this and how the lands was kind of looking at how the landscape around 2017 starts to change and all these streamers become bigger players. And then now we're gonna get to COVID where all the streaming stuff explodes. So it's a pretty cool, it's that kind of like snapshot of like what's going on at the time of this movie, why was it released this way, how did it come together, that kind of stuff. So that's the focus of it. It's not really a film review show. We're not really reviewing movies, we're just kind of giving context.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And then at the very beginning, you talked about your own film that you were attending yesterday. Is that something that fans can watch? And how do they get their hands on that?
Oh man, you're good. Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
holiday holdup. So it is playing a little small theatrical, but yes, you can watch it. It is on Peacock.
Okay.
So if you have that, you can rent it on Prime, and it's also on Pluto and Tubi. So those are free. You have to sit through the ads, which is not that big of a deal. So all four of those services, it is available depending on what you subscribe to, if you want to rent or if you want to sit through ads. They're not too bad. So you can get it right now. Perfect for the holidays. It's a crime. I'm gonna say this, try to get this out, a crime caper comedy. So it's a fun holiday movie. Restaurant employees get fired right before Christmas and try to take revenge on their boss by robbing his poker game. None of them are criminals, so it all goes bad, but it's all funny, lighthearted, good-natured stuff that's just like very Soderbergh inspired. It's called Ocean 7-Eleven, you know. That's just-
It's called Holiday Hold Up.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
holiday hold up. So
So
available on all those
I'll
streaming.
put the links below, especially to Tubi. I know a lot of like myself, I watch a lot of stuff on Pluto and Tubi. We'll put those down there, but I'll put all the links for you. Let's get as many people over there watching Holiday Hold Up as possible. That sounds actually like a lot of fun and perfect for this weekend coming up for people that want
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
jump
yeah,
in
exactly.
holiday spirit by watching some employees take some revenge on their boss's poker game. I love it.
Yes, yes, the Christmas Eve heist. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you adding all that stuff and reminding me. I should have given more there. But yes, thank you very much. Yeah, we're very proud of it. I just yeah, it like The Awaken. I just want people to experience it, read it, watch it. The whole movie's there. You like I said, you can watch it for free if you want. It's there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations on all your success, Michael. I cannot wait to see some of these new titles come out, and I'll definitely get my hands on The Awaken. It looks awesome. The art is incredible. So, congrats to Dean on that. And I hope we could do this again very soon, Michael. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'll make sure I put all the links below, your socials, your website, all the links to everything that we talked about today below. So, anybody that's listening and wants to check out Michael and his huge array of work with novels, comic books, movies. I'll put all those links below so that you can check it out. But Michael, I want to say thank you very much for entrusting me with your story today. I hope we could do this again. And until next time, I hope you have a great week and I hope you have a great holiday next week with family and friends.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you for all that. Thank you for having me. This is a blast. And congrats to you. Like as someone who has a, small YouTube, I see what you're doing. I'm like, oh man, dang. That's amazing.
As you know, in my case specifically, none of this happens without great folks like you. So if I don't have, like, no one wants to hear me, they all tune in because it's who we bring onto the show. And I try to take more of a journalistic approach with all the folks that join our podcast. It's really about you getting people to understand who you are, what you've worked on, the things that make you excited, the things you're passionate about, and then people can decide whether, hey, I want to tap into everything Michael's doing because I like his story and I like the things that he's doing. So hopefully we create a platform like that. And without folks like you, trust me, no one wants to hear me. Well, I got 4 kids and a wife. None of them want to hear me ever. So.
I have two. Yeah, I have two and married. So yeah,
Yep.
similar. But no, but you're doing great. The conversation is awesome. I mean, your background is you're killing it with the collection.
Yeah, yeah, I have a little bit of an obsession with action figures. So yeah.
I like it a lot. Awesome. But no, thank you. This was great. This is a really good time. I appreciate it a lot. So thanks for your time.
You bet, Michael. Well, I thank you, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Yeah, enjoy the holiday.
You too. Bye bye.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.